enterprise where we stop, listen, and share. We are back for another week. So glad to be talking with you all.
We are back for another week. So glad to be talking with you all.
We are back for another week. So glad to be talking with you all. So let me introduce everybody who is here with us this week. Of course, starting with the man in the mask, the voice of the voiceless, JK. JK, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm good. I don't know, Nate. Like, this has been like a crazy week. I am trying to do my best, and I'm back here alive. Survived this week, and what is happening with others? Let's go around, and I see like a returning guest and a team member is also there. Let's go with Siva and come back to him.
Yes. Siva, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine. And same thing, like JK said, we are too busy, and it's a great week. We have 2 jobs, and we are doing the same thing with Cognizant, just keeping a time sheet and other thing. And we are doing another kind of thing, and they are meeting. They schedule a lot of meeting. We are attending meetings, and there is another 2 job waiting for. We are finding the person, like that's why I think Ishwak now want to join with us. Hey Ishwak, can you join with your video?
There we go.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi.
How are you, Ashwa?
Hi. Yes.
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right, let's begin the conversation. So the experiment is going good, really good, and some offline update for you, Nate. I don't know what's going on with the state client project that have been doing it. We tried to manage it for 3 weeks, but we have not got any payment so far. So that is kind of hitting the roadblock, and we don't know if they are going to find out or we are going to drop out of that. So that is what we are at. But to the surprise part, as you know that just before we joined the conversation on the backstage happened, he was asking how do they do the background verification for job offers. So for Cognizant, you know that like last week when we talked about you have been onboarded and the background was going on, and the background verification company HireRight, they kept calling and asking about your pay stub, W2, your experience, and also your educational background and all those
this
things.
Is what
that is not
I
even
was planning
complete
to do, right?
But
so
then
once we
before that, like they have started
have
sending
that
you a
recorded
laptop.
and using
See
the
that
OBS
email,
software,
right?
we can play
So
it
Cognizant
as
email,
live
like they are welcoming
as
you,
such,
onboarding
whenever
on,
we want,
and you must have
and we
received the
can add,
laptop, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yep, I received it today, as a
other
matter of
things,
fact.
editing, putting in
So
the name,
That's a
title,
wonderful
showing any of those things.
news. But then, how do they do this, and why do they do this?
And even
We're
if
still
we are
puzzled,
not there,
right?
it
So,
will be completed
any
by
thoughts on
itself.
that? Like anyone wants to share, like why this is happening? Again, we are pointing back to the same thing, the number game, right? They want somebody else. So
Yep.
they are so desperate, and they have sent you the laptop without even knowing you. And now, how are you going to start? Like if your background is not even cleared,
They won't I think they won't check out, like background verification is it's a kind of paperwork. They won't check it fully, like that's why I said it to Ashwa, because they had a project, they got a project, and they want the end client to be as someone to be with the end client. They won't, like this for their eyewash, like it's kind of they already fixed it.
so it's like match fixing happening.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's funny because last week when we talked, JK, We were talking about all the rest of the information that we needed to finish the background check. And like, it's been a busy week for me just because it's basketball tournament time. And so we've been doing a lot of games this week, and I haven't had a chance to get back with you in terms of the information. And then, like I said, today there's a knock at the door, and I've got a laptop for Cognizant, and we didn't even finish the background information. So you're right. It is a numbers game. It is match fixing where, you know, the recruiters don't really care about that. They just want to get you into the system so that they can get paid.
Nate, hold on there. Recruiters do care more than anybody else. Recruiters do care. Like, if you notice it, like they have been calling back to back and leaving voicemail to you saying that, hey Nate, when are you going to join? Did you accept the offer from Cognizant? Because unless you start, they are not going to get the commission because they placed you. So for them, it's like, I got my prize, I got my lottery, and how am I going to catch that? So they were so eager. Like the same with Shiva, right? For him, like TCS has given a full-time offer, and they have been on his back asking him to complete the background and ask him when he's going to join. So for both of you, recruiters are calling and asking, like, when are you going to join? When are you going to join? When is your start date? Have you started? That's the fun part, right? So the industry itself is modeled in that way that somebody is going to get benefit.
How does this weird stone death mat help prevent slips?
Do you hate stepping out of the shower into a puddle of filthy bacteria? Soggy basement starts as gross. Filthy bacteria? Soggy basement starts as gross. Filthy bacteria? Soggy basement starts as gross. Filthy bacteria?
So
It's making money, like-
we need to stop now. Then we should name it a start now.
Just start now.
Yes, that's good. Yes, yeah.
Ashfaq, any thoughts? You are the new man here. You want to comment or bring in your journalistic mind and give your opinion, comments?
The company is directly engaging with Net, or is there any third party?
Now
what?
I need.
There won't be any third party. What do you mean by third party?
I'm saying it is the company which is, communicating with Net, or is there any hiring, hiring agency?
There is an agency, right? So a recruiting agency who submitted Nate's profile, and we cleared the interview. So after the Cognizant hiring team, hiring manager talked to us, they have sent the offer and we accepted the offer, and the background is now going on. So we all know that, like, Nate doesn't have that background, and we were expecting that, like, the background will fail and they will not onboard him. But to our surprise, even without background being complete, they went ahead and gave him a start date of March 14th, and also they have sent the laptop. Even if they now fire him, like, he doesn't have any obligation to return the laptop. I did not join the job. Did you send me a laptop? Where is that? Like, who got it? I don't know that. We can say that, right? That's
We're gonna
happened.
have so many laptops when this is all when this is over.
Yeah, we can open a laptop shop. It seems.
Yes.
Like we have gathered around 7 laptops so far, including first, like 4 and 3 of Nate's laptop, right?
Yep.
Probably we can start a black market. That's why I said, like, start now instead of stop now. So
For like,
go ahead, Shiva.
no, like returning the laptop, it's not a problem for us. Why we want to keep the laptop?
It's a
If
memento.
we don't go.
Trophy.
Yes.
We
It's a souvenir.
Souvenir, right? It's an evidence, right? It's an evidence.
Yes.
We keep it in the locker room. The evidence is more important. And later on, they will say like all those things are like not. Those are paperwork. We have withdrawn the offer. We found out. They can say whatever
Yes.
they want in the court.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so the evidence.
Yes, that's the thing. They will take off all the database from what we doing here, and
Yeah.
they took out. Yes, that's
Yeah,
why we need
we can
something.
be wiped out. We can be wiped out if we are going against Google, right? Google can right away block our channel, get the access. Probably we can focus on the war that is happening, and we can shift our gears towards that rather than focusing on the human trafficking all the time. What do you hate in Shiva? Is the war justified? And is Russia correct or NATO correct? Or what United States is doing correct? What India says as a neutral stand, is that correct?
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot right there. There's a lot in that question. Like, I think that it's interesting to me how people's opinions on war is depending on the countries involved, because I've seen a lot of support for Ukraine, and I do support Ukraine, but I've seen a lot more support for this European country than I do when it's a black or a brown country that is going through a certain similar situation, and we don't see the same amount of support from the government, from the people. So I just find it interesting that this specific conflict is the one that's gotten everybody so invested.
Okay. I don't think like if America is there, war will be there. We can't stop war, and wherever war or army materials will supply, like this is a financial problem for America. They manufacture all the thing, and they supply overall world. And Russia, same thing. They want to show who is the superpower, and they want to market them thing, like they want to showcase all the thing materials they have manufactured, and they want to showcase this will do good and this will do good. That's why America, I think on the olden days, they want to prove they are a democracy, and they want to stay all the way overall world their democracy, what they think democracy is there, and they want to showcase their democracy. And Russia and China want to showcase them as communists. That's the clash between democracy and communism. Let me see, like democracy or communism is win on the war.
I mean, 100 years, right? So this philosophy, trying to attach the philosophy is like who's right and what is right. That puzzles me, as you put it, like we know that this is an economic thing. As long as everyone wants to grab the power, like call it as I am the superpower, I can control anybody else. And United States and European countries forming that NATO and sending arms to Ukraine and provoking them like to fight against Russia is kind of a coward thing to do, right? On the back, you are saying, oh, we don't want war, and you are supplying the ammunition to them to fight. It's so cheap politics. I couldn't expect this from the President Biden, right? Because how can you not use the diplomacy and stop this nonsense? Because we have limited knowledge. Obviously, we can make assessment and judgment and talk about our comment. That's how like everybody does it in the world. It's not about right or wrong, right? Anyone, right? You can't even stand neutral just because in the past Russia supported India or US is trying to pull that out. War is a crime. If we are going to say war can be justified, just like the statement, like anything is fair in love and war is not justifiable. Whoever engages in both the sides are wrong. You cannot kill people and say like, okay, I am doing this for this reason. Whatever reason is, like killing others is bad, right? So how do we draw the line, right? So how do we like even oppose them, stand against, I'm talking about United States, Nate. How do United States people oppose this war that silently being waged by the United States in the name of NATO and forcing the Ukrainian people to do this?
I think with the US, it's very interesting because there's a lot of history with our relationship with Russia, you know, going back to the Cold War, going back even before that. And the way that Trump for 4 years was buddy with Putin, and now we've got Biden in there and there's a different dynamic. It feels like Americans in general tend to be supportive of the war, supportive of, you know, the Ukrainians versus the Russians, but I don't know how researched people are in terms of like what's actually going on, in terms of what some of the political and the economic ramifications are. JK, it's like you even have Republicans who were pro-Putin a week ago who are now anti-Putin, but they don't know why. And I think that's really interesting in kind of how everything's tied together politically. But like I tend to agree with you about war, just in general. Like I'm peaceful, JK. I don't believe in killing. I do feel like there are circumstances where you need to defend yourself. But I'm generally anti-war. But this particular conflict between Ukraine and Russia, I think, is it's a lot more tangled, I think, than people are making it out to be.
Yeah, I just thought, sorry to cut you on that. Like, so something came in my mind right now, because history, as you said, right, when you go back to history, like they always cling to that. 100 years before, when the Russian Empire broke, like I don't want to go into the history because I'm not a history major, or I don't know much about those things, and I don't care. The reason why I say like I don't care is like you are clinging to the past means like you are the problem then. In 1922, the Soviet Union was formed, and 100 years from now, like the same thing is kind of repeating it, right? They are trying to gather and make it one. And it was obvious that the Cold War and in 1991, like the United States and the Europe was the reason to break them into smaller pieces and make them less powerful. It's all your mind game that you are trying to do. How long you are going to continue to do this just for the sake of money? I'm totally ashamed. That is what, like, I think that it is like, they will ask, oh, are you an economist? Do you know economic policies at a global level? How does that work? Because in 1918, after the Spanish flu, millions of people died. They started the World War. The same thing is kind of repeating it, right? After this pandemic got over, we started this war, which can escalate into a nuclear war. And that clearly shows that like we are not still evolved as a civilization.
Human being. Human being, not a civilization. We are not a human being, I don't think, because it's, I think they play with the thing. What about the Afghanistan? The same thing, they have taken Russia and America, a fighting long period, and now they left the Afghanistan and there is no democracy, nothing is there. What they done for 25 years, America is there, and they said like we are giving them democracy. And where is democracy?
So that's the
Yes,
thing,
they,
right? So the medias are also at fault. They are trying to play this mind game and portraying a one-sided story and propaganda. British propaganda was the one that was successful in those days. That's how like they won the World War II. They all say this. Now we have this social media and trying to block those things and dominate it. And but still, people are getting sources from different angles. And I do hear these kind of stories saying that like. US is still doing the bad things. So they are the one who is they are not the victim, or they are not, they are the culprit. I mean, how long are you going to hide by doing this, continuing to sell the weapons, right? And also after the war is over, you finance them to rebuild their cities. That's a market, right? Economy, how you build it, and saying that like we are helping you. You are the one who destroyed it, and get the fuck out of here, man. Like they will say that. And why would they want your help? So it's strange. I still don't know what to say and what to do in this, right? We are caught up in this, and we can.
we'll ask like a journalist from Ishwak. Ishwak, you are a journalist, and what's your view? Ishwak, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I'm there. I was listening to your enlightening comments.
What do you think? What's your
See,
thought?
war is no doubt it is not good for the entire humanity. Whether
Yes, sir.
it is whether the war is started by a country in the US continent or any other country sitting in the Europe. But the thing is that we just look at the policies, which the US and the Western countries, they adopt and they put into practice. When they go on, when they kill, innocent people, so they are happy with it, and they have their own ways of defining things. So I'm not justifying what Russia is doing right now in Ukraine. What I'm trying to mention here is that if you look back in the last 20 or 30 years, where they have started wars, in which places or in which countries they have started wars. Iraq, in Yemen also, Yemen war is happening. Afghanistan, they destroyed Afghanistan. And before that, they were in Vietnam also, somewhere in the 80s or 70s, in the 70s. So I really don't buy their double standards. It's very simple thing, the math is very simple. So now everybody is now rushing in the UN. They are talking about UN Security Council. They are talking about the war crimes. They are talking about the human rights. So suddenly everybody is now talking about all the rights of which the humanity should have. So having said that, I am not justifying what Russia is doing in Ukraine. And see the kind of support Ukraine is getting, from every corner of the world. But no, nobody's trying to dig out why Russia went into this war in first place. So I really don't buy this double standard of what these countries are doing.
Yeah, we all agree, right? Again, we are circling around with the same thing. Most of us, like as a common man, we just don't have that much of power or influence to do anything. We all agree that like war is not justified, and we go back to the timeline and say all these things, right? Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, even way back to Korean War, anything that the American adventure was a misadventure, and it is stupid. and it is in no way justifiable. That we all agree, right? Like for example, India was also splitted by the British, and India is not going to go to war to Pakistan and capture them. That's not going to happen. But still, during that time, like Russia supported, and that's why like still India is taking the stand. Like, what do I do? The dichotomy, right? Your economy is dependent on US, and if you go against US, so it all goes back to the United Nations itself is a useless piece of waste organization, a junk which cannot do proper work. And what is international law then? When everybody can violate and do whatever they want, if they have the power, then why do come together, right? Just handle your own thing, right? So that is my thoughts, and probably it's
No,
not
one thing, the one thing which is very, very, very simple, I always say, they have their own way of defining things. Like they have their own definition of justice. They have their own definition of, inhumanity, humanity, and blah, blah, blah. And everything, everything they do, so they do according to their own parameters. I hope you guys are getting what I'm trying to say. Like if they're killing somebody in Vietnam, so this is not a war crime. I'm just giving an example. So they have formulated their own policy, which keeps them happy, and they put to those policies whenever they want to practice.
Yeah,
And they will, yes.
Yes. If I do, that is right, but if you do that, that's wrong.
Like I can give you one more example, and Russia, Russia went out of her way, to support India during 1971 one war. So Russia has always stood by, by India, whenever there was, tough time for our country.
What is the tough time, Ishwak? What is the tough time for India?
Like when I say tough time, I'm trying to say during 1971
war,
when Indira Gandhi was there, when Indira Gandhi was our prime minister. So Russia went out of her way to, to strongly stand with India at that time. When India, India attacked Pakistan. So India got.
Yeah, that's the thing.
India
That's the thing. Yeah. That won't be a tough time. Again, you're saying that when the war is there, somewhere nearby countries, this power mans come like America or Russia. What the use of it? We are the space thing. We are a Gandhi's land, and we are saying like tough time for India to war against Pakistan or China, and Russia are helping. That's a nonsense thing. No?
Again, right? So that is a misrepresentation, right? How we even look at the history as well. So during the World War II, during the British rule, India had their own agenda. Like some people wanted to go with the Germans and fight against the British and join the forces with Japanese and tried their thing like to get independence. But then those things didn't work out. But luckily we are portraying that like we are peace-loving people, Indians are,
yes.
And we don't want to war. Non-violence is the great thing, and Mahatma Gandhi is the ideal that is being showcased. And if you look at it, like if you become powerful as an Indo-nation that they are trying to build in, they will attack Pakistan. They did that in 71 war and broke the Pakistan into two and created a Bangladesh. So you cannot justify that, like saying that, oh, we did that, like good for that people. When you all claim that like the whole subcontinent was under the Hinduism, and it's the everybody is like kind of brotherhood. Do you practice that? No. It is all like different standards, right? Even in if you go back the timeline and in the history line, every time like we make mistake when we go to war. War happened in any part of the country, the struggle is there. Who is having the upper hand, who is powerful, and who can control the large population. That is what this game all about. And I don't know how long we are going to be like this, but it is what it is.
I think Shiva hit on something earlier where, we're talking about countries, we're talking about governments, but at the end of the day, you're talking about human beings. And there's always going to be some element of violence. There's always going to be some element of conflict when you talk about human beings. Like we talked about this a while ago, JK. There are things that are just going to exist because that's human nature and conflict and war and some of these type of issues are always going to be around. I think the question is, what do the rest of us do about it? And you said, like you're saying, we're only individuals, but what can we do? What effect can we have? Like, how can we help? How can we abstain? Like, I think that's kind of what people are wrestling with, particularly when you're talking about this situation with Ukraine. And I don't want to gloss over the point that Ashfaq made, which is something that I agree with. If you look at the way the media has covered this conflict versus how they cover what's going on in the Middle East or what's going on in Africa, or what's going on in Asia, like it's a different way of talking about the situation because we're talking about Europeans. And that's something that I've noticed. And I don't know if a lot of people have noticed it, but I've noticed that the conversation is different around Ukraine in part because they're European.
Yes, it's all final judgment is like somebody will portray it as Hitler and somebody will get a Nobel Prize for peace. It happened for a thing. Surely some American president will get a Nobel Prize for peace, and somebody rest of the world portrayed as an Hitler. It will happen, and they maybe kill them according to Hitler law. Like they will kill them, and they showcase he's Hitler. That's why we kill him, and I got a Nobel Prize for peace.
So Joe Biden's going to get a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes, it will happen. Yes, if the world is there, he will get it. Ishbok, what's your thing? What's your thought? Final thoughts?
See, final thought is that the war should stop because
and who will get the Nobel Prize?
Nobody is going to get the Nobel Prize. The war should stop because it is going to take us to nowhere. At the end of the day, both the countries will have to, come to the talking table.
But already they have portrayed like Putin as a Hitler. You heard it?
No. That section is, that is a very small section. This when
no,
such
like
things
in American museum, the museum is there, and they removed the statue of thing. You didn't hear the news? They removed the statue, and they said like we don't keep any Hitler kind of man, and we are removing his statue from.
No, they are doing so many similar things. Many similar things, and removing his statue is one of them, one of those things.
Yes.
So I don't think that is going to make some big difference. They are sanctioning some rich guys from Russia, and they are freezing their accounts in various big banks. So I don't think this is going to make any big difference because Russia is not stopping. What I am trying to tell here is that the war should stop because it is not going to take us to to anywhere. And chances are that I'm not saying this will happen, but chances are that at some point, if it doesn't stop, then we cannot rule out involvement or engagement of other countries. Because Ukraine is sitting in the heart of Europe, and other countries is also now today there was news that some countries are sending, private mercenaries to Ukraine to defend this, this country, who is defending the Russian attack right now.
So that is always there, right? So that is why, like I say, like war is justified in the name of business. This is a business transaction that is happening in an ugly way. And we as a common man or people who are suffering out of war, they will say like, oh, let's stop this. This is bad. Just like the pandemic, right? So everything got affected. So many people lost job and asked everybody to stay home. But millionaires and billionaires, they made more. And they now have more control. And they want to set this right. And that's why, like, how do we know, like, I'm still struggling, right? If I am in the manufacturing unit, like making war weapons, I want that to be used and sold, right? So it cannot be in the museum. So the bombs have to be deployed somewhere, tested, and it is being staged. That's why, like, I see this as it is all planned and choreographed, and how they do this, and then like later on after a period, they will settle down and say like, okay, we are coming back to the table. So this is like killing innocent people, slaughtering them like animals is what is happening. And as Ashwak said, like I do agree, like it's a whole kind of a drama that's going on, saying that like we are sanctioning, we are removing this, and in what way you are, then they will sympathize with the Russians later on, saying that like millions of innocent Russians were, as if one Russian, Putin alone, is responsible for this war, and they just can't do this, right? So that is my final comments, and I think we can go on and on this. There is no end, and probably we can stop now.
Yes.
Yes, and I one last point, because you know, kind of what Shiva was talking about and Ashfaq alluded to. I've noticed that people like to do symbolic gestures, JK, where we're gonna boycott Russian media. We're not gonna buy things made in Russia, or you know, like restaurants. We don't serve Russian dressing anymore, and it's like, it reminds me of like the early 2000s, where we didn't have French fries, JK. We had freedom fries, and it's like it's an empty gesture that doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. And the real heart of this is what's going on with the people, the innocent people that you mentioned that are being killed. What's going on in terms of the economic ramifications with oil and fuel. Like, those are actual things that have stakes in all of this. And like, so yes, if you're watching this and you want to have a salad with Russian dressing on it, don't feel bad. Just eat your salad.
Well said, Nate. Yeah. With that, we will go back to our experiment. Again, we are wrapping up with too many things. We don't know what will happen the next 2 weeks, and we will come up with a good update on that. Meanwhile, join us in our YouTube channel. You don't have to like us if you don't like our show. Please like, subscribe, share. That's the standard thing, like we keep saying. And we have a membership as well. Those who join, they will get discounted merchandise from us as well. Thank you all for joining this week episode. Bye for now.
Bye.